Good day and welcome to the latest series of NCREIF Analytics on Demand. Seems like broadcasting video from home is a thing, so I hope you're all healthy and safe at home. Since 2003, NCREIF has been collecting an incredible wealth of information on the cash flows of properties submitted as part of the NPI. In today's on-demand module, we'll discuss the revenue and expense categories in the property cash flow. Let's start using the revenue and expense report, which shows the cash flow line items in a stacked bar chart for each of the property sectors and is available for all the metros NCREIF covers. This first chart shows each of the four revenue line items in dollars per square feet. Office properties stand out with the highest base rent, but also notice apartments' lack of reimbursements. Another way of looking at revenue is as a percent of total revenue. In this perspective, retail has the lowest base rent, with just 70% as a percent of total revenue. Remember, the NPI is a collection of member properties in both gross and net markets, and that these percentages change with different markets. This dichotomy shows up particularly well in Los Angeles, where the CBD market receives 55% of the revenue from base rent, versus the suburbs, which receive 80% of its revenue from base rent. This implies Los Angeles favors net leases in the CBD and gross leases in the suburbs. Let's look at the expense side. Office again has the highest expenses in absolute dollars per square foot terms. The largest absolute costs across all sectors are tax and maintenance. When expenses are viewed as a percentage of total revenue, apartment and office expenses are similar. Taxes across the board are about 15% of total revenue, and industrial has the lowest expense ratio with low administrative and utility costs. Capital expenditures, which can be as much as 25% of income, are expenses used to upgrade a property, such as a new roof or an HVAC system, but does not include recurring or routine maintenance and repairs. Office has the highest capital expenses, due in part to high tenant improvements. A new algorithm is being developed to fix the negative expansion shown in the chart that appear to be an accounting reversal to building improvements. For a full description of what's included in each category, see NCREIF's knowledge base. To see how these revenue and expense categories are moving over time, let's move to the Market Operations Report. This report groups a few indicators together for reporting. In this example, we will use the KPI collection valuations. The first chart shows the total revenue per square foot over the past 15 years. Remember again, these figures represent the ever-changing NPI sample, which over this period doubled to over 6,000 properties with full revenue and expense information. Due to this changing nature of the NPI index, computing the growth rate of the sample uses a slightly different technique. While both charts use annual cash flow information to construct a data set, this chart uses the same store method to compute the quarterly growth rate, which is then chained to create the rolling annual rates shown in the charts. The export file contains both annual and quarterly results. Here you can see the current strong fundamental growth in industrial revenues, growing at over 7% this past year. Next up, we can see that expenses carry a lot more volatility than typically underwritten and are part of the volatility of the NOI. Not everything grows at 3%, although in the 15 years of data that we have collected here, the total expense growth has been on average 3.2%. Through all this volatility, the expense ratio, or total expenses over total revenue, stays stable. So expenses follow revenue at a reasonably constant ratio. Revenue less expenses yield the key indicator in income returns, net operating income, or NOI. That's before capital expenses, debt expenses, and fees. More on those later. We can see from the seasonally adjusted annual NOI growth rate the trends affecting the real estate markets. Here you can see the large NOI drop in industrial in the great financial crisis, its slow recovery, and its latest strength. Let's not forget capital expenses, shown here in dollars per square feet. Yes, they theoretically add to the value of a property, or do they? These expenses include both controllable and uncontrollable capitalized expenses, including leasing commissions, tenant improvements, building expansions, and other capital expenses. This past decade has seen office per square feet growing. NOI less capital expense yields cash flow or cash income per square feet before debt and fees. Offices' high capital expenses make it have lower cash flows. We can see that ratio in the cash to income KPI, also known as the dividend payout ratio. Another way to view the revenue and expense data is via the interactive operations report, where we can compare any of the KPIs across the metro areas. In this example, we can see New York's tax rate per square foot are the highest as expected, but Austin's tax rate seems high and reinforces the caution that the NPI is a portfolio of properties and the allocations across sectors and geographies change over time. Future versions of analytics will directly affect these exposures to better understand how the changing allocations affect each of the KPIs. This wraps up this on-demand module. We hope this information will help you better understand these KPIs and assist you in benchmarking your portfolios. If you have any questions or suggestions, please ask the question to the knowledge base or call the staff at NCREIF. Thank you.